First day back went so well. My kids are super sweet and talented. My favorite part of the day, though, was in the last class that I went to. There was a kid that says, "Oh my gosh, you're non-binary. So is my sister. Look at this picture of them." Right? Isn't that awesome? And that's why I'm out. That's why I'm visible. That's why representation matters. Heck yeah.
Welcome back to the High Impact Flicks channel. Maybe after that intro, you're wondering why the heck you're even here. But stay tuned because it's going to get a little better. Or will it?
Heck yeah.
I want to thank Noble Gold for sponsoring today's video. Most Americans don't own sound money. Sound money is defined by the Constitution as gold and silver. It's been accepted as sound money for over 5,000 years. And even though it's been artificially suppressed by the international banking cartel, it was the best performing investment class for 2022. In that year, the S&P was down 20%, the Dow was down 10%, and Bitcoin was down over 65%. Gold and silver outperformed them all. Open a gold or silver IRA with Noble Gold Investments this month and get this quarter-ounce American Gold Eagle for free with every qualified IRA of $50K or more. With thousands of five-star reviews, there's a lot of happy people who are glad they went with Noble Gold. Check them out with my link in the description and in the pinned comment. Now, back to today's video. With all the tyrannical policies coming down the pike, like forced taxation to fund Ukraine, one of the most corrupt governments in the world, assault weapon and high-capacity magazine bans that will criminalize millions of innocent Americans, one of the most important things we can give our attention to and reject are central bank digital currencies. If that's implemented, 100% of our freedoms in this country will evaporate instantly. This is absolutely a digital intervention and surveillance system where the government will have the ability to spy on everything and everyone at all times in all places. All your anonymity will be gone. All your purchases and sales will be tracked and traced. All your associations will be laid bare, and CBDCs will no doubt be linked to a social credit system that rewards and incentivizes government do-gooders and snitches while it penalizes hardworking people who maybe bought one too many packages of environmentally unfriendly meat. Or maybe you kept your heat just a little too high during the winter, or you're using too much air conditioning in the summer. Maybe you're filling up your vehicle way more times than they think you should be, so you'll be cut off from buying gas that month. There are a myriad of ways they can monitor and object to your spending habits and control what you can do. So standing against the digitization of cash and the rejection of further central bank overreach is the right thing to do. Also, we know that governments, politicians, and governors are puppets on bankers' strings, advancing tyranny over the people while decimating the value of their time and labor. None of them can be trusted. So what exactly is going on with Ron DeSantis' rejection of central bank digital currencies is a real head scratcher to me. He rightly points out that the Federal Reserve is the reason for the massive inflation caused by their monetary policy. He correctly reiterated that SVB was bailed out by the central bankers and left the people paying the bill. Listen closely to what he says about all these serious financial issues and his staunch rejection of CBDCs.
So if you look at what's happening with our economy, we had starting in 2020 massive fiscal stimulus, and that ended up being trillions and trillions of dollars over a couple years. The Fed reduced interest rates to basically zero, pumped a lot of money into the economy, and that led to inflation. And I think almost anyone who was looking at what was going on over the last many years would have said that inflation was the likely result of those policies. Now, the Fed itself, when it was clear that we were seeing an inflationary upturn, said that it was transitory, that this was something that would just work itself out. And so they did not act when they should have they got behind the curve, and so as inflation continued to spike and continue to be a huge problem for our economy, they responded by hiking rates very, very rapidly, very, very quickly. That's done a lot of things to hurt a lot of people, but it has put a lot of pressure on the banking sector in particular. And so we had recently this issue with the Silicon Valley Bank, which was bailed out. I mean, this is a bank that had invested in a lot of long-term bonds that were no longer profitable because the interest rates have gone up. They also did things like focused a lot on ESG and DEI and didn't do appropriate risk management. So they ended up being in a situation where they were insolvent. And so the Fed, because this is a bank that is very politically connected with people in Silicon Valley, the Fed and the Treasury Department bailed it out. Now, they try to say it's not a bailout because they say it's going to be paid for by banking fees. But who pays the banking fees? Customers. So you're going to pay more for fees to do banking in order to give the Silicon Valley people a bailout. Now, there was not a systemic risk to the economy from this one bank, but they were politically connected. And here's the thing. When you engage in those types of policies like we've seen over many years, someone is going to have to pay the bill. Ultimately, the bill comes due. And so what they've now done in the last couple weeks is they've printed another $300 billion and injecting that into the economy. Now, the problem with that is they spent the last year trying to take money out of the economy with their raising interest rates very rapidly. And so just what they've done since you've seen the hiccups in the banking is they've wiped out half of the reduction in the money supply that they had worked for the last year to achieve, all to be able to benefit some of these politically connected banks. And so what they're doing is they're, quote, fighting inflation and managing the economy in ways that make it more difficult for you, for average people, but are shielding the banks from the pain associated with the policies. And my question is, are you interested in giving these economic central planners more power over our economy, more power over your daily life and your economic activity? And I answer that question, HE double hockey sticks. No, we cannot have that happening. And so that's why we're here today, because we've seen a lot of mismanagement from the economic central planners. It's just by nature. You cannot do this effectively without there being major costs to pay. And so some want to increase power to these organizations such as the Federal Reserve. And so last year, President Biden issued an executive order to explore the creation of a U.S. central bank digital currency, effectively converting the dollar into a centralized digital currency. And this is different than things like cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. A centralized digital currency is directly controlled and issued by the government to consumers. And it provides the government with a direct view of all consumer activities. And so this is something that is being proposed as somehow being environmentally sustainable, a way to increase access to consumers who lack the means to join a traditional bank. But as we've come to learn, any way they can get into society to exercise their agenda, they will do it. So what the central bank digital currency is all about is surveilling Americans and controlling behavior of Americans.
Ron DeSantis is 100% spot on about this. He's alerting his fellow Floridians of the incoming threat to the freedoms of everyone living in that state and really in this country and the world. And rightly so. This is a surveillance apparatus that central bankers want to use not for the benefit of the people, but for control over the people.
And how do we know? Because we've seen this happen in other parts of the world. Look at no further than China to see the impacts of centralized digital currency. The People's Bank of China uses its central bank to monitor citizen behavior, allowing for the surveillance of spending habits and to cut off access to goods and services. You also see things in the Bahamas where they've instituted caps on CBDC holdings and transactions. In Nigeria, central bank capped ATM withdrawals to forcibly push the use of their digital currency in lieu of physical currency. And I don't even need to think here, what are they going to want to do? These ESG factors. You go and buy gasoline. If you bought too much gasoline, they just won't allow you to use this to make a transaction. Who knows whether they would let you buy a firearm or things that they disapprove of. And so you're opening up a major can of worms, and you're handing a central bank huge amounts of power. And they will use that power. I think if we've seen anything over the last 4 or 5 years is if they can do their agenda, they will do their agenda in any way that they can. I mean, just think about some of the stuff that's happened with the whole banking situation. You know, the deposits are protected by law up to $250,000. Above that, it's not protected. Congress never changed that law, and yet somehow the administration, the Fed, the Treasury, they're removing that cap for some of these banks. And so the law is not really going to be an impediment to them if they can get the central bank digital currency. They will use that in ways that benefit their agenda. So today we're here because we now recognize there's a concerted effort across America to backdoor provisions for the use of central bank digital currency through individual state uniform commercial codes, UCC. Uniform commercial codes intended to provide for standard governing laws for commercial transactions across state lines, and is set by an independent commission of, quote, experts to seek uniformity in state laws. Now, while legislation to apply recent recommended changes to the UCC has been introduced in about 20 states, no bill has been introduced in the Florida legislature, and if they were to pass a bill, I would veto that bill. However, given the risks associated with the federally sanctioned centralized bank of digital currency, today I'm here to call on the legislature to pass legislation to expressly forbid the use of CBDC as money within Florida's Uniform Commercial Code. This will ensure that Florida continues to be a state that supports innovation in the financial sector through the market while protecting against government surveillance over your personal finances. But our legislation shouldn't stop there. Given the continued increase in Chinese influence in worldwide affairs and increase in plans to adopt CBDC worldwide, our legislation also prohibits any CBDC issued by a foreign reserve or government-sanctioned central bank. This will ensure that any effort to adopt a worldwide digital currency will never occur in the free state of Florida. And finally, I'm calling on like-minded states like Florida to adopt similar legislation into their uniform commercial codes and to reject any changes to their uniform commercial code that would formally recognize a central bank digital currency. And I've already spoken with Lieutenant Governor of Texas, who's ahead of the Senate in Texas. I do believe Texas is going to do something similar to what Florida does. And if we can get a groundswell of states to say no, we are not going to turn over this power to you. I mean, look, ultimately, cash is king. I mean, if you can hold it in your hand, you have power over that. The minute it's all digitized, somebody else is going to have control over that, and it's just a question of, are they going to let you live your life, or are they going to decide to do things to circumvent what you want to do? And think about what we've already seen. In Canada, you remember when the truckers were protesting the vax mandates, you know, they had banks, some of the government froze some of their banks. You had charities that were trying to help these guys, and that was frozen. So we've already seen government really overstep its bounds as it is in the banking situation and financial sector that we have now. Can you imagine if we went to something like a central bank digital currency? So I'm glad that we're at the tip of the spear on this. I think it's really important that states stand up to fight back against some of the things that are going on, well, most of the things that are going on right now in Washington, because they don't have your best interests at heart. They have their own power at heart. They have their own agenda that they're looking to advance. And so I think this will be great legislation. I look forward. We're already talking to the leaders in the legislature. I think this is something that is going to happen, and I look forward to being able to sign it into law later this year.
So what's really going on here? We know that DeSantis is pro-Israel, which is decidedly anti-American. He, along with Trump and Biden, applauded some anti-First Amendment, anti-Semitic hate speech laws. DeSantis claimed to be against the VAXX mandates, but slipped this into SB 2006 that the state health officer may use any means necessary to VAXX or treat an individual. So I'm not sure what's going on here with the CBDCs. What kind of political magic trick is this? Leave your thoughts about this in the comment section below. If you want to support the channel, grab a hard-hitting conversation starting design you can get from the store. There's over 110 designs that you can put on any shirt, hoodie, mug, cell phone case, hat, whatever you want. Make sure you're subscribed to this channel, hit the bell notification icon so you can get my uploads. Give this video a like, share it with everybody you know, and I'll see you in the next video.